The human walked into the broken alien hall, his boots echoing on cold metal. Smoke still hung in the air. Everything was quiet, too quiet. Then he saw her, an armored woman lying still on the floor. Her armor was glowing faintly, cracked, but alive. He didn't know who she was, just a stranger. Still, something in her made him stop. He knelt beside her. "Are you okay?" She didn't answer. Slowly, he reached out and helped her up. In that moment, everything changed. From the shadows, alien guards stepped out. Dozens, their weapons were raised. Then suddenly, they dropped to their knees. All of them, silent, staring at her. Not him. The human froze. Who was she? Why did they bow? And why was her hand now glowing where he touched her? The hallway was silent. Only the sound of soft footsteps echoed in the empty space. The human walked slowly, looking around carefully. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. Lights flickered on the tall walls. Something had happened here. Something big, but now it was calm, almost too calm. He had come alone. His mission was to explore the strange palace, now abandoned. He didn't expect to find anything living. He had heard the place was lost, that no one survived, but he kept walking, just to make sure. At the end of the hall, he saw something that made him stop. There was a figure lying on the floor, a woman. She wore silver armor, glowing faintly with soft blue light. Her body was still. One arm stretched out beside her, the other pressed against her side. Her helmet was cracked, and her long hair had fallen over her shoulder. She didn't move. He stepped closer, heart beating faster. Was she still breathing? Kneeling down, he gently touched her shoulder. Her armor felt warm, not cold. That surprised him. He had seen armor before, but this felt different. He didn't know why, but something about her felt important. Maybe it was the way the light pulsed gently from her armor, or maybe it was the feeling in the air like something was about to change. He spoke softly. "Can you hear me?" No answer. He looked around. Still no one. Carefully, he placed one hand behind her back and the other under her arm. With a deep breath, he helped her sit up, and then slowly helped her to her feet. The moment she stood, something strange happened. From the shadows around the room, figures appeared. Alien guards, dozens of them. They had been hiding, watching. Their faces were unreadable. Their eyes locked on the woman. The human froze, unsure what would happen next. But then, they did something he never expected. One by one, every single guard dropped to their knees. No one spoke. No one moved. They just knelt, their heads slightly lowered, all facing her. The human felt a chill run down his back. He looked at the woman, who was now standing with his help. Her eyes were half open, glowing softly. She didn't seem surprised. She didn't speak. But there was something in her face, a memory trying to return. The guards said nothing. But then one of them whispered, just loud enough to be heard, "She returns." The human looked at him. "What did you say?" The guard didn't respond. He just kept kneeling, eyes on the armored woman. Another guard finally spoke, his voice low. "We thought she was lost." The human didn't understand. Lost? Who was she? He looked back at the woman. Her hand was now resting on his arm, gently. And where she touched him, her armor glowed brighter. Just for a second. Then she said one word. It was quiet, faint, in a language he didn't know. But even though he didn't understand the word, he could feel something change in the room. The guards didn't move. They stayed kneeling, waiting. The human whispered, "Who are you?" She didn't answer. Her head slowly turned as if she was listening to something far away. Her eyes flickered like memories were playing behind them. Suddenly, a soft beep came from her armor. The human looked down. A small light had appeared near her side. It was blinking. He leaned closer. It looked like a signal. And then he realized what it was. A tracker. Someone, somewhere, now knew she was awake. He stepped back, eyes wide. He looked around the room again. The guards still knelt, but they had all heard the sound too. They knew what it meant. Someone was coming. The woman finally looked at him fully. Her voice was soft, tired, but full of something deep, something old. "You helped me." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I did." She took a shaky breath. "Now, you must run." The words weren't loud, but the meaning was clear. He helped her stand, and now whatever secret she carried, he was part of it, and they were no longer safe without another word. He gently held her arm and began walking out of the chamber. The guards didn't stop them. They just watched silently. Outside, the wind had started to rise. Clouds moved. Above the strange sky. Far in the distance, lights flickered. A ship had entered the atmosphere. Whoever had been waiting was finally coming. But the human didn't look back. He only tightened his grip on her arm and whispered, "I've got you." She nodded once, and together they disappeared into the shadows. As the old world began to wake again, the path ahead was quiet, but not calm. The human moved carefully through the dense fog, guiding the armored woman with one arm around her shoulders. She walked slowly, her steps unsure. Her body was still weak, and her head would sometimes tilt, like memories tried to return but didn't quite make it. The glow from her armor had dimmed now, but a soft pulse remained near her chest, steady, like a slow heartbeat. They had left the palace behind. He didn't know if the guards would follow, or if they were still kneeling in that silent hall. Maybe they didn't want to stop her. Maybe they were waiting for something, or someone. The sky above was heavy with clouds, and the wind carried strange sounds, distant hums, the soft rattle of machines in the distance. Somewhere out there, someone was tracking the signal from her armor. Time was short. He brought her to an old shelter hidden in a canyon, a place he had used before during his travels. It wasn't much, just a single room carved into rock, with old equipment and a working power core. But it would keep them hidden for now. Inside, she sat down slowly on the edge of a platform. Her hands rested on her knees, fingers still covered in silver armor. Her head hung low. He placed a warm drink in front of her. "It's safe here." For a little while, she didn't respond, but her eyes looked up at him. There was confusion, but also something else, trust. He sat beside her, keeping his voice soft. "You remembered some words earlier. Do you remember anything else now?" She closed her eyes. Her voice came slowly, carefully, like every word was hidden deep inside her. "Name is lost." He nodded. "That's okay. We'll find it again." She raised one hand and touched the side of her helmet. It made a soft sound, and a small light appeared in the air in front of her. It was a flickering symbol, a triangle with a line through it. The human didn't recognize it, but it seemed to mean something to her. She stared at the symbol for a long time. Then she whispered, "Anchor." He blinked. "What? You are Anchor?" He smiled slightly. "That's what you want to call me." She looked at him. "Yes, Anchor helps balance." He didn't fully understand, but he didn't need to. The way she said it felt important, like it was part of something ancient. That night, she slept in silence while the human worked at a small screen, trying to track the signal from her armor. He wanted to remove it, shut it down, but when he touched it, the screen flashed, and suddenly, he saw something. Not a map, not a message, a memory. It wasn't his. He saw a tall chamber, filled with light. Alien leaders stood in a circle, and in the center was the armored woman. Her armor looked newer, shining. She held a staff with the same glowing triangle symbol. She was speaking, her voice calm and strong. Everyone listened. They weren't afraid. They respected her. Then the memory shifted. The same hall, but darker now. Soldiers rushed in. A guard, one with dark markings on his armor, spoke quickly and pointed at her. The leaders turned. There was shouting. She dropped the staff. Her eyes widened. The image faded. The human stepped back, breathing heavily. What had he just seen? The woman was still sleeping, unaware. The next morning, a small group arrived. They weren't part of the Empire. Their clothes were simple, and they carried no weapons. They said they were part of a quiet resistance. Word had spread fast. Someone had seen the human leave the palace with her. And now, rumors were growing. "She's the silent one," an older rebel said. "The lost heir. The one from the stories." The human looked at the woman, who was now awake and listening. "She doesn't remember much," he said, "but something's happening. Something big." The rebel nodded. "If she's truly who we think she is, she's the only one who can stand against the Empire's plan." Another memory flashed through her mind, a star map, a gate between worlds, and a weapon of light. Her hand trembled slightly. She looked at the rebels. "I am not weapon," she said quietly. The room went silent. The human stood beside her. "She's not here to be used." The rebels exchanged looks. "Then what does she want?" The woman looked at the human. Her voice was stronger now. "I want to remember and choose my own path." The rebels agreed to help. They gave her access to their small lab, where old data pieces had been stored. She spent time reading, scanning symbols, slowly unlocking more of her past. The human stayed close. He learned small parts of her language. She taught him words by drawing symbols in the dust and pointing to objects. They shared quiet meals, no big talks, just simple moments. But not everyone in the rebel camp trusted her. One young rebel watched her with careful eyes. That night, he sent a message from a hidden device. "They're here, the lost one." And the human, "Send orders." Far above the planet, in the cold silence of space, a ship received the message. A figure stood at the window, watching the stars. He turned to his officer. "Prepare a team. We're going to the surface. This time, we bring her back." Back. In the canyon, the human and the armored woman sat beside the fire. She looked up at the sky. "Someone is coming." He nodded. "I know." Her hand found his, and for the first time, she smiled. Just a little, but in the distance, the stars had started to move. The days passed quietly in the canyon, but the silence felt like the calm before something unknown. The armored woman spent most of her time near the small rebel lab, where old data screens and forgotten files blinked slowly to life. Every time she touched a console, something strange would happen. Her armor responded to the technology like it remembered the systems, even if she didn't. Sometimes lights would flicker brighter. Sometimes broken machines began to hum again. Just for a few moments, the rebels watched her closely, some with wonder, some with caution. No one knew what she would become, only that she was important, and that made some of them nervous. The human stayed by her side. He didn't always understand what she was reading or what symbols she was drawing into the sand, but he listened. He helped her pronounce words when her voice faltered, and when she was quiet. He didn't push. He had learned that silence was part of her healing. Late one evening, as stars began to shine above the canyon, she stood by the fire and spoke a word he hadn't heard before. It sounded soft but full of meaning. "Valari." He looked up. "What does that mean?" She closed her eyes. "A place. My home, long ago." She stepped away from the fire and knelt beside a flat rock. Using a piece of metal, she scratched a shape into the surface. It looked like a map, circles and lines. Stars connected with glowing paths. He knelt beside her. "Is that where you're from?" She nodded. Valari was more than a home. It was a center where peace was made. The human stared at the map, but something went wrong. "Yes," she said softly. "They feared what I could do. They took the memory, broke it into pieces, hid them in light." Her words were strange, but he felt the weight in them. She had once held something powerful, not a weapon, something more complex, something tied to memory, peace, and maybe command. That night, as she slept, he stayed near the console. He couldn't sleep. Curiosity pulled him in. He connected her armor's signal to the old computer, hoping to learn something more. What he saw made him freeze. A message appeared, not from her, not from the rebels, but from the armor itself. A soft voice, not in any known language, echoed in the air. But somehow, he understood it. Anchor recognized. Memory channel active. One mind required. Then a pulse of light appeared above the console. A scene unfolded in the air like a recording from long ago. He saw her again, standing tall in a grand hall. Her armor was shining. She wasn't alone. A younger version of the guard captain stood beside her. And there was another person, hidden in the shadows. Their face was never shown, but their presence felt cold. The image shifted to a field of stars. A fleet of ships surrounded a giant structure, a glowing ring. A voice said something in her language. The meaning was unclear, but one word repeated, "Guardian." Then the light faded. She stirred in her sleep, as if sensing the memory he had just seen. Her fingers twitched. The next morning, she stood outside the cave, looking at the canyon below. He joined her. I saw something. From your armor. It showed you. Before all this, you were leading something. And someone betrayed you. She looked at him quietly. Yes, I feel it, too. Like a scar on my mind. The one I trusted took everything. She walked a few steps forward. But now, I feel something new. What is it? He asked. You. She said, you do not want power. You want truth. That makes you strong. He didn't know how to respond. Her words felt heavy, like they came from somewhere ancient. She turned to him. You are my anchor. With you, I can stay awake. Without you, I might fade again. He nodded slowly. Then I'll stay. Later that day, a small group of rebels returned from patrol. They brought news. Movement had been spotted in the skies above. A ship Empire markings. The rebel leader frowned. They're here, looking for her. The human looked at the woman. She didn't seem afraid. Instead, she said, then we move forward. If they come, we show them the truth. That evening, as preparations were made to move camp, something unexpected happened. She asked the human to train with her. I need to remember how to move, she said. But my body feels different. They began slowly. Simple balance. Steps, hand signals. She was graceful, but rusty, like a dancer remembering a forgotten rhythm. And something else happened. When they trained together, the armor reacted. Not in danger, just with light. A soft pulse from her chest, a blue glow. From his fingertips. When he touched her wrist, the light moved between them. She paused. Your mind links to mine. He stepped back, confused. What does that mean? She looked at him with calm eyes. It means I'm not alone anymore. But far above, the Empire's ship had reached orbit, and someone was watching their signal. A man with sharp eyes and a quiet voice. She's waking up, he said. We move at dawn. The sun had barely touched the edges of the canyon. When quiet footsteps moved through the rebel camp, birds chirped softly above, and wind slipped. Across the rocks like a whisper, it should have felt peaceful. But the human felt something else, an invisible tension, like the air was waiting to break. The armored woman stood near the entrance of the cave, facing the rising light. Her armor caught the early sun and shimmered faintly, reflecting soft silver and blue hues. She had changed over the last few days, not just in strength, but in presence. She seemed more aware now. Her steps were steadier, her words clearer. Her eyes, once filled with confusion, now held purpose. But questions still remained: who had taken her memories, and why? And what was hidden inside the armor that others feared so much? The human stood beside her, silent for a moment, then said, I don't think they'll wait much longer. She didn't turn to him, but nodded slowly. They are close. He looked at her. How do you know? She tapped her chest plate lightly. The signal inside. It feels like it's calling. Or being called. Behind them, the rebel leader entered with a cautious expression. We need to move soon. Scouts say the Empire ship is circling. They haven't landed, but they're watching. The woman turned. If we run, they'll follow. The human frowned. So what do we do? She walked toward a nearby stone table and placed a small crystal shard on it. It was something she had found the day before while scanning the old consoles. At first, it looked like nothing, a broken data crystal, but when her hand touched it, it lit up with a soft glow. She had said it felt familiar, like a missing piece of her mind. She placed her hand over it again. A quiet hum rose. In the air, slowly, an image formed above it, floating lights, arranged in a circle. A hidden key, not just to her past, but to something much larger. This, she said, pointing to the lights, is one part. The rest is inside me. The rebel leader leaned closer. Inside your memory. She shook her head. No, inside. The armor, it's locked, but someone tried to break it before. That's why my memory faded. The seal was damaged. The human looked at her. You said I was the anchor, that I help keep your mind stable. She nodded. Because your energy doesn't want to control. It connects. That's why the armor accepts you. He paused, thinking. So if we open the rest of the seal, what happens? She looked up at him. The truth returns. But only if I stay whole. If not, it will break again. The rebel leader stepped back. That's a risk. What if the Empire wants that seal broken for their own reason? The woman glanced at the crystal. They want the knowledge inside. They don't care what it costs. But if we do this right, we choose what to keep, what to share. Outside, the wind picked up. A sharp beep echoed from the comms console. One of the rebels ran in. They've landed. A small team. 10, maybe 12. Not attacking yet. The human looked at the woman. They're waiting, probably for a signal. The woman's gaze was steady. They're waiting for me. Later that afternoon, they gathered at the Signal Hill, a high point in the canyon, where transmissions could be sent across systems. The plan was risky, but clear. Use the crystal to unlock part of the seal, let her memory return, and send a message to those who still followed the old ways, a silent call to truth. But something happened when they activated the signal. The sky above flickered. A second ship appeared, and with it, a voice, not from the woman, not from the rebels, but from someone they had not seen in a long time. "I see you've awakened," said the voice calmly, and still holding onto old dreams. The woman's eyes narrowed. "I know that voice." The human looked at her. "Who is it?" She stepped closer to the console, her voice low. "He was once part of the circle, a guardian of peace, but he turned away." The voice returned. "You carry a broken code. Let it go. Come back, and we will repair what was lost." She looked at the human. "They don't want to fix it. They want to use it." He didn't answer. He just nodded. Then, something unexpected happened. One of the rebels stepped forward. A young man, quiet until now. He held a device in his hand, a small transmitter. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I didn't know. I thought they wanted to help." The woman looked at him gently. "You sent them our location." He nodded, ashamed. "I didn't trust you at first. I thought you were a danger." The human stepped forward. "It's not too late. Help us fix this." The young rebel looked down at the device, then crushed it beneath his foot. "I believe you now," he said. The woman reached out and placed her hand on the console again. The lights shifted. The memory seal opened. This time, the image was not of war. It was of a meeting, dozens of worlds agreeing to protect peace through her line. A promise made by many, a shared future. And then a symbol appeared, one they hadn't seen before, a star with a spiral inside it. The woman whispered, "This is the final key." The human turned to her. "What does it open?" She looked at him. "Not a weapon, a voice, a way to speak to every world at once." The Empire didn't want her to remember that, but now she did. The sky above the canyon had shifted. Thin silver clouds moved in long, slow spirals, as if the air itself was reacting to the change below. The armored woman stood at the edge of a narrow ledge, her back straight, eyes locked on the swirling horizon. There was a stillness to her. Now, not emptiness but focus, like a puzzle was slowly clicking into place in her mind. The human stepped quietly behind her, careful not to break the silence too soon. He could feel that something inside her was changing again, not in a dangerous way, but deeper, like a memory not just returning, but unfolding. "They're not just looking for you anymore," he said quietly. "They're looking for what you've become." She didn't turn, but nodded. "They can feel the shift. The signal we sent, it reached more than we thought." He moved closer. "You remember more now, don't you?" Her fingers touched the side of her neck, just beneath the collar of the suit. "Not like memories, more like echoes. I don't see the full pictures yet, but I feel names, faces, places I've never been to, but somehow know." She finally turned to him. Her eyes were softer now, less guarded. "And I remember one thing very clearly. Before the seal was placed on me, I asked for something to hold me together." He looked puzzled. "What did you ask for?" "You," she said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Or rather, someone like you. Someone not from the system, not trained, not programmed. Someone whose thoughts weren't shaped by old alliances." He was silent for a moment, unsure what to say, but she just smiled faintly. "You're not a mistake. You were part of the design." Back in the rebel hideout, the others were trying to decode the last part of the signal crystal. It pulsed gently, the light spinning in patterns too complex to follow by eye. The rebel leader stood with arms crossed, watching the readings. "If this is true," he said, "if that key unlocks communication across systems, Then we're holding something every empire wants to control. One of the rebels, an engineer, added. And if she's the only one who can send that message, she becomes more than just a target. She becomes the voice of the forgotten worlds. When they returned to the cave, the woman sat down near the edge of a shallow pool of water. Her reflection was blurred, but clear enough to see something was different about her. A faint glow under the armor, something not there before. I think, she said softly. The armor is waking up too. He sat beside her. You mean it? Was asleep this whole time. It was waiting, she replied. It wasn't just made to protect me. It was made to adapt to me, to grow with me. That's why I couldn't open before I wasn't ready. She held out her hand, and a small shimmer passed over her palm, almost like the armor was breathing. There's more inside it than I thought. A whole layer hidden beneath. Not for battle, but for memory. He leaned closer. Can you show me? She nodded and placed her hand over his. The shimmer spread, gently wrapping both their hands. In a soft light, images flashed, not clear scenes, but glimpses. A planet with twin suns. A council of beings from different worlds, all gathered around a floating orb. A young girl, her, before the armor, standing before them with her eyes wide and hopeful. She pulled her hand back slowly. That was me. They chose me because I could hear the signals others couldn't. Because I asked the right questions. He smiled. Still do. Just then, a faint tone echoed through the cave. The signal crystal pulsed brighter than before. The rebel leader entered quickly, holding a new tablet. The code cracked. The message is ready. You can send it now if you're sure. She stood slowly. I'm sure. They moved to the top of the hill again. This time, no ships circled. No voices interrupted. Just the quiet wind and the sound of something ancient waking up. She stepped forward and placed her hand on the transmitter. The armor glowed fully now, soft and warm. The signal crystal floated gently above her palm. And then she spoke, not in one language, but in many. Her voice split into layers, carried by waves of light. To the watchers, to the silent ones, to those who were told to forget. I remember. I see you, and I am still here. The message spread outward like ripples in a pond. The human looked at her. What happens now? She turned to him, calm and steady. Now, we wait, and see who answers. The air shimmered gently around the mountaintop, like the world was holding its breath. She stood near the edge, her armor now soft glowing, almost alive. It wasn't just armor anymore, it had become part of her, responding to her thoughts, her emotions. She didn't need to speak for it to move. It simply understood. The human stood a few steps behind, watching quietly. He had never seen her so still, so calm. But there was something deeper, an energy around her that he couldn't explain. Like something old had finally returned to her. They've received the message, she said softly. Without turning, I can feel them waking up. Who? He asked. The others. The ones who were like me, chosen, changed, hidden. I thought I was the only one left, but they were only waiting for someone to remind them. He stepped closer. What will they do now? They'll come, she whispered. Some will be afraid. Some will be curious, but one will try to stop what we've started. He looked up at the sky, now streaked with faint silver trails, barely visible. They're already near, aren't they? She nodded slowly. Yes. And the strange thing is, I remember them, not faces, not names, but I remember the feeling of standing beside them, or running from them. I don't know which yet. Back at the rebel camp, the crystal pulsed brighter than ever. One of the engineers pointed to a screen filled with symbols. These aren't just responses, he said. Some of them are coordinates. Some are requests. But a few, they're warnings. The rebel leader leaned in. Warnings. Yes, the engineer said. Something's moving. A force we don't understand yet. One of them said, you woke her. But she wasn't meant to wake alone. The human and the armored woman returned to the camp that night. Everyone noticed how she walked differently now, more like she was leading something unseen. Some looked at her with awe, others with quiet fear. She sat down by the signal table. The light from the crystal reflected in her eyes. They will test us, not with force, but with choices. They want to know what kind of path I will choose now, the human asked. And what will you choose? I don't know yet, she admitted. But I won't choose it alone. Later, when most were asleep, she stood beneath the stars, the wind gently brushing through the folds of her half-shifted armor. The human approached her again, silently. "You don't have to stay near me," she said without looking. "I know," he replied, "but I'm not here because I have to be." She glanced at him. "Then why?" "Because when I helped you stand that first time, I didn't know you'd be something more. I just saw someone who needed a hand." She smiled faintly. "And now I see someone who remembers more than anyone else ever should, and still hasn't let go of kindness." She looked up at the stars again. "They're coming tomorrow. Not in ships, in signals, voices, trials. Are we ready?" "No," she said. "But we're not alone anymore." That night, she closed, her eyes near the flame. The crystal hovered beside her, and the armor shifted silently, forming a soft shell around her shoulders. Her dreams were strange. She saw a place made of light, floating steps, and distant voices calling her name, not her new name, but an old one she had forgotten long ago. And in the center of that vision stood another like her, fully armored, yet without a face. They didn't speak, but she understood one thing clearly. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of what they were always meant to become.